Phase 2 of version 1.2 is officially dropping tonight, and with it comes Iroi, our very first limited banner support and healer. Now Iroi is coming out right on the heels of Shinku's banner, but because the Chinese client gets access to the updates about a week earlier than us, we've got the full breakdown of her kit, her synergies, and I'm going to be helping you guys to answer whether or not you should pull for Iroi. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down her kit, how her revive mechanic works, and whether or not she's like actually mandatory for Shinku. I'm hoping to help you decide whether you should be pulling for Iroi or whether you should be saving for patch 1.3 so that you could get Zanku or Linko, which we could expect them to probably work very well together, just like we could expect Shinku and Iroi to work pretty well together. But yeah, I really enjoyed Iroi in the story, and I really enjoyed playing her in 999 Nights. So I'm looking forward to her coming out. Not for the same reason you foot people are, but yeah, I'm looking forward to Iroi coming out. Now let's talk about Iroi. She is our first limited banner support character. Her class type is survival. She uses liquid arcs. Of course, her signature arc is going to be the best choice for her. It increases her attack and gives her a bunch of % attack, which is what she wants because she grants bonus damage to her teammates based on her base attack. Well, a percentage of her base attack. So it's pretty good to have a lot of % attack in there for her. So whenever Iroi heals, or the wearer of the arc heals, it increases your allies' damage dealt by 15% for 20 seconds. Based on your skill's cooldown of 12 seconds, you're able to keep that up the whole time because the skill resets every 12 seconds. You could just reset that little buff on your team. And however you're able to fit her into the combat windows. If you don't want to pull for her arc, you want to save those keys for a future banner, you can always use Clear Skies as an alternative. It increases anima damage dealt by the wearer's skill and ultimate. Or you could use Call of the Twisted City, which just increases her healing bonus, which is valuable, so that works too. As a support, I don't crazy value the arc. However, when we look at her arc and how it synergizes with her teams, it does give you that 15% damage boost, and I do value that if I'm going to be using her with Shinku on my main account. So I will probably be pulling for it, but it's up to you whether or not that 15% damage boost and some individual damage on Iroi is worth it if you choose to pull for her arc. But like we said before, in-game, Iroi's labeled as survival, but calling her just a healer is kind of doing her dirty. She's an anima support, and she does all sorts of stuff for us. We get an attack buff, we get crowd control, and we get an emergency revive system, just in case if you need it. And this is all packed into one unit, which is pretty awesome. First off, we need to talk about how her resource loop works. When you're doing your basic attacks and attacking with your lambs, this will actually build up this meter above her health bar. Because we're not fighting anything right now, she's just flopping around and having her lambs do attacks. So yeah, but you build up this meter you see down here. This meter has a little benchmark that you want to reach. When you reach that benchmark, you could spend this resource, which is called Imagination, to deal a large burst of damage by holding down your basic attack. So when you hold down your basic attack after building that up, you deal a massive burst of damage. And then we've got the second loop to pay attention to. So this is Iroi's skill. Does a little burst of damage, gathers mobs, buffs your team's attack. Very cool. It also grants you some of this resource down here so that you can cast your super basic attack. Yay, and she gets a minigun. It's actually pretty satisfying. I liked using it in the 999 Nights. I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Iroi's skill is really good. It's like an all-in-one. We get an AoE grouping, we get healing, we get an attack buff for the rest of our team. It's huge. It's really, really good. Now for the second part of her skill. When we hold down on her ability, it places the rest of our teammates into a regression state. What's a regression state? Let me show you. All right, we hold down on it. Where did our team go? We can no longer swap. But as you could see, our little sheep are floating around. Those are our teammates, and they're dealing damage for us. So we could kind of just AFK and let them put in work, I guess. But yeah, another reason that you want to pay attention to that imagination bar is that when you are above that threshold, when you use your ultimate, it has a different effect. So if you are below the threshold and you use your ultimate, you get team-wide healing, which is great. But if you are above the threshold and you use your ultimate deals continuous AoE damage while healing your team, as well as letting you swap to a teammate that's in the regression state if they've fallen during combat. When a teammate falls during combat, they enter the regression state when you have Iroi on your team. When they're in the regression state, after you use your ultimate, you can hop to that character, they will be revived, and you could do that once per ultimate. After the ultimate ends, they re-enter that regression state, and it lasts based on how much imagination you have built up. But should you pull for Iroi now that you know a little bit about what she does? First of all, do you have Shinku? If yes, Iroi is going to work great with Shinku. She's not strictly mandatory though, but it seems like they're built from the ground up to be a dream pairing together. And here's a couple reasons why. Shinku is an aggressive, frontline, on-field Cosmo DPS who is going to want to spend all the time that she can on the field dealing damage, especially when she gets her ultimate off and enters her dragon form. Iroi's healing, Iroi's buffing, Iroi's like passive that lets you save a character and they enter the regression state and all that, and allows you to keep the fight going for that character. Like, those are all huge benefits, the survivability and the buffs for Shinku. And then part 2, we got the blossom effect here. This effect is blooming. It's blossoming, it's blooming. With Iroi's passive ability, her blossom passive generates a copy of the blossom spawns as long as that blossom has existed for 3 seconds. And so you're just machine gunning out these blossoms if your team is built right for it. For me personally, on my actual account, I'm going to run Iroi, Shinku, probably the main character for now, and Haether. And I'm just going to be getting Blossom off, I'm going to be getting Charge off, Remora. I'm just going to be trying to buff the hell out of Shinku with Iroi, get her surviving, deal a ton of damage, and just have those plants firing off all of the little seedlings, whatever they're shooting. I just want to machine gun them off like Iroi when she uses her enhanced basic attack. It's so satisfying, it's so silly. I want to build like solo DPS Iroi. That'd be pretty funny. So should you not pull Iroi? Here's a little bit of counterpoint whether or not you should not pull Iroi. So let's say you do have Shinku. Shinku does not fall apart if you don't have Iroi. You could still run Shinku perfectly fine with a support like Ji-Yuan, or you could even use Nonali in there. She also has her follow-up attacks. Like, you don't necessarily need Iroi in order to make Shinku work. I think that they work great together, but just because they work great together doesn't mean that it's necessary. Iroi definitely makes Shinku's gameplay smoother. It makes it safer, it makes it deal more damage, but what's important to me here is that Iroi does feel like a pretty future-proof unit. If you want an anima support, you have Iroi. You also have G1, but Iroi is more of a dedicated anima support than an anima support sub DPS, in my opinion. So as a universal support with a team-wide attack buff and a ton of survivability baked into her kit, I personally think that Iroi is worth pulling. Let me know down in the comments below if you're going to be pulling for Iroi. Like this video if you had a good time revisiting some NTE content, and subscribe for future gacha, Neverness to Everness, and other content to come. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.